Woods is a wife, mother, radio presenter, life coach and cook. With so many hats to wear, every day is jam-packed. But with Julie's vision and drive, she manages her busy schedule with ease. And she does it all without sight.
Today in the kitchen we're going to be cooking without looking some cinnamon rolls. From the very beginning of being blind, I always felt that it was my responsibility to find my own solutions, so I never looked to other people to find the solutions that were right for me. Because I felt safe in my own home, I really began getting back into the kitchen, I guess, and that really was one of the first steps of my rehabilitation. Helen Keller says that optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. It's a favourite of mine because it uses a bread recipe that I'm used to making, and the cinnamon rolled aspect of it has only got 3 ingredients, so I can commit those to memory. So about to go for a 6 a.m. walk, and the weather is a bit grotty. I haven't had a text from Jo, so hopefully she'll turn up. And it just feels a bit damp and gloomy, but we'll get out there and do it.
Hi Jo, I'm here.
Hi Jo, how are you?
Oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, let's go.
In her own home, you wouldn't know it.
Okay.
But it's when Julie steps outside that the challenge of being blind confronts her. Every day. 14 years ago, she was a mother of 2 young boys, and Julie was declared legally blind.
Up until that point, I was partially sighted. I'd been diagnosed at the age of 18 with a condition called Stargardt's disease. And the hardest part about that was actually not belonging anywhere. So I didn't belong in the sighted world and I didn't belong in the blind world. So actually, when I went blind in 1997, it brought me closer to a group of people that I could align myself with. Oh, another runner.
Yeah, look, sounds like it.
Sitting on the couch is really boring, and I say that I did it for a couple of weeks, and I learnt fairly early on that people weren't going to run around after me, and people weren't going to want to be around a blind person that was grumpy.
Oh, yeah. This is one of these little wheelie bins, Jo.
What colour are they?
They're green.
So Jo is the sighted guide, and she walks slightly ahead of me, and we've got a hot pink rope that we hold. Still down. And then she walks ahead of me, and I suppose get towed along. That's what it looks like.
He's waving. Off we go.
Everyone in Dunedin knows Julie as that blind woman. She's built her career as a life coach around that nickname.
Right, coming to a downer. Yeah, right, don't work too
Excellent.
hard today.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Right, let's go in and see what these boys are doing. See if they've got themselves ready for school. Zach gets up at 5 o'clock and does the paper run.
Julie's got 2 teenage boys.
And Sebastian's a bit slower to get off his chuff.
See you, Mum.
Bye, guys. See you, Zach. Have a good day. The first part of this recipe is about making a dough. So we're going to do that in the bread maker here, and I'm going to grab a 1.5 cups of hot water. So I'm just going to feel my way back over to the sink here and grab some probably warm water. Carry it over to the container that comes out of the bread maker. We'll just put it straight in there. 1/2 cup's a bit hard. I'll put my finger in about halfway. I have made it once and I've put the mixture actually straight into the machine, which is really annoying. So we're not going to do that today. Next we are going to have a tablespoon of butter, it says, but I find it easier just to grab a scoop of margarine. I remember very early on being disempowered by other people's comments and felt quite, not depressed, but it used to make me feel really uncomfortable when they would put limits on the things that I couldn't do.
Being fiercely independent, Julie decided to become the best darn cook she could be.
Then we've got 3 cups of flour. So I'll grab 1 and tapping the side of the container so that I know that the flour cup is full. The boys have just started taking to making chocolate cakes, so they've also started to put the containers back, not always around the right way. So I scooped down the other night to make gravy for tea and I put sugar in it instead of flour because they'd swapped the containers around. So we had to have a family conference that night. Come on over and have a look at some photos of the boys when they were younger. Here we go, I think they're up here somewhere. A lot of people ask me about not being able to see my boys and does that bother me, but I think I've got used to it. And rather than being stuck in the sadness of not being able to see what they look like, I try and focus on what they feel like and what they say to me. And I know that when they were that age, they didn't have any stubble. So as they've grown older and they bend down to kiss me now, I can actually feel that they've grown because their cheeks are quite rough. A tablespoon of sugar. Goes in. Find the lids. That's a square jar, that's a round one, so that always helps. Helps me tell the difference between the two.
Julie enjoys spending time at home with her new husband, Ron. He's only known her since Julie's been blind.
Do you want to do the quiz?
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Right, which sports ground was formerly located where South Dunedin's branch of the warehouse now stands?
Oh, Caledonian.
Well done. Yay. Okay, how many feature films did James Dean star in before his early death in 1955?
4 comes to mind, so I'll go 4.
Okay, I'll go 3 then.
Okay. Bobby shy. So once we've done the quiz, then we head around the house and I just make sure that things are tidy. Let's have a look and see what's happening in here. Zach's bedroom. He's made his bed, he's left a towel on there, so I'll grab the basket and we'll chuck that in there and we'll take that down for the wash. The boys are pretty tidy and I think it's probably from me having gone blind at a very early age, or their very early age of 3 and 1, and I know that they've had to make sure that they haven't left things lying around and put things back in their place. So as a result, we've got teenage boys that are actually pretty tidy. I'll just tidy these towels and put them neatly on the towel rail because it's really important that things are kept in their place and for them to be in order because that's the way I function. I'm off to Tahuna Intermediate for Operation Truffle and then the radio station for the Cooking Without Looking show. Operation Truffle is my project to visit every intermediate school in New Zealand and to do a Cooking Without Looking demonstration for the kids. Kia ora. My name is Julie. I and blind. And good morning to Hoona Intermediate.
Hello, Julie.
We called it Operation Truffle because when I went blind, if I couldn't remember a recipe, I didn't bake it. And truffles is something that has become part of who I am and what I do. As part of Operation Truffle, when I go and visit the schools, I go in and I do a cooking without looking demonstration, making those truffles, and talk to the kids about turning their problems into opportunities and tell them part of my story, which begins in the hospital waiting room and ends up at the celebrations of my 10 years blind party.
What's the most embarrassing mistake you've ever made?
Oh, there's too many. I think when I was in the main street, I was at the audible signals and I went to push the button, you know, the big button that's at the traffic lights so that it makes a noise so we know when to cross. And unfortunately, there was a man in between me and the button, so I pushed right in the middle of his back. And I went, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And he turned around and said, anytime. I couldn't see the point in going blind unless I was going to do some good with it. So for me, that's at the core of everything that I do. So it's about being able to turn something really bad that happened to me into something really good. Operation Truffle! So I guess that really drives me, that purpose of wanting to inspire other people beyond their own limits. Thank you there. Welcome to the Cooking Without Looking show, an hour of food that comes in cans, not cannots. I'm that blind woman.
Keen to get schools to sign up for Operation Truffle, Julie phoned Otago Access Radio to place an ad.
On later, and she'll be sharing a recipe with you if the Prime Minister...
They got chatting and offered Julie her own radio show with a cooking theme.
Well, this week I'm going to be making you one of my favourite recipes, which is for shortbread.
The show features Julie transcribing recipes into Braille, and her mum reads them out.
Fold in the dry ingredients, alternately with the milk.
A live cooking demonstration.
Squish it into action.
And even profiling blind musicians.
One of the things I tried to do when I began Cooking Without Looking was really focus on the things that I could do rather than the things that I couldn't do. And that's how I approached my blindness. So to focus on the fact that I could still smell, hear, taste and touch. So even though I could no longer see, I still had these other senses which really were underdeveloped until I started using them a lot more. We've got a salt pig here, and we're going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt, which I kind of roughly measure as 1/2 tablespoon, and throw that in as well. The reason I'm not too fussy with this recipe is because often you're making it in the morning when time is precious, so I try not to make it too difficult, and that's really about Cooking Without Looking for me, is about keeping things simple so that I will actually be encouraged to do them again. Once things get complicated and hard, I tend not to do them.
As Julie was going completely blind, her first marriage was collapsing.
It was 4 years after I'd gone blind, and my husband left our family on the 15th of June in 2001, and on the 30th of June 2001 I enrolled to learn Braille at the Foundation of the Blind. I was just tired of the negativity that had surrounded my life and wanted to do something positive. So at the beginning it wasn't particularly a great desire to be literate again, but just really setting myself a goal and focusing on a task and doing something that was positive. I fell in love with Braille and everything that it brought into my life, and I guess the practical application of Braille was what I fell in love with, because it meant that I was able to implement systems that I needed to in terms of having folders, like I've got this recipe folder here. I've even got my lipstick, which this one, I've got 2 pink lipsticks, you see, so it's very important that I don't get them muddled up. And this says bright, so it's my bright pink one. When Ron and I started living together in 2005, it was our first Christmas, and he kept disappearing just before Christmas time, and I didn't really know where he was heading off to, but it was so busy and frantic, and I soon discovered where he was going.
Well, it may seem a little odd being an artist and married to a blind person, but in fact Julie is a huge inspiration to me. Her interest in Braille sparked an interest in Braille for me, and the idea of using Braille in art came to me when I was thinking about a present for Christmas for Julie. I wanted something that was tactile, that she would be able to appreciate in a situation where she's unable to see it. The idea came to me to produce work in Braille, but I wanted to make it accessible to people who can see as well. I decided to do it in white because people who are blind, very often that is what they see. It's a common misconception that people who are blind just see black. Julie has vision. Even though she's blind, she has remarkable vision and insight. So I used the word vision, and the Braille dots form the O's in the word vision.
When I went blind, I got this new vision, and I had this sense of knowing where I was going, and I wanted to be a mother, a wife, a daughter and a friend. So that all of a sudden pulled me in a certain direction, and if I was going to be those things, then I certainly had to do lots of new learning and pick up lots of new skills.
So this sparked a whole range of new ideas using Braille or tactile art, and I've done around about 14 or 15 pieces now, and it's proved to be quite popular.
It's a great compliment to be able to inspire an artist, and we do that to each other, I think, on a daily basis. So now we are going to put that in the bread maker. Lift the lid here. Make sure we've done that before we try and attempt to put the container in. And that'll just slot in. Run my hand into the power cord here and put that into the slot, power socket, and then turn that on. Fortunately, this bread maker has an audible signal, so I'm just going to feel for the top here. So 1, and if I do it 2, 3, 4 times, that selects the dough. And then I just push this bottom right hand button and we're going to start. And that made a very faint clicking sound, which tells me that the bread maker has begun its work. So there's the dough. Now we're going to make the inside, which goes into the cinnamon rolls, obviously. So we need a tablespoon of butter, which I'm just going to slice off with the knife here. I think that's about right. Might be a wee bit on the heavy side, but hey, you can never have too much butter, eh? And put it in for about 30 seconds. See if we can count to 30. I did this exercise in a Cooking Without Looking workshop one day with the kids. I said, put the chocolate into the microwave for a minute, and I said, in about the halfway point, you might want to check it, which is about 30 seconds, and they said, how do you know when it's 30 seconds? I said, well, you watch me. And I managed to, there, you can hear that butter melting. So we'll take that out. turn that off. I managed to stop the microwave right on the 30-second mark. So sometimes it's about using your intuition and trusting that. Okay. But it's still really important to me, even though I can't see, to care about the way I look. I suppose it seems a bit weird, but I can remember what I looked like 14 years ago, but I guess that image is a wee bit outdated now. Right, let's have a look in this wardrobe and see what we've got to wear. I've got lots of that blind woman tops, so the way I can tell them apart, the different colours, I have a slit up the middle for anything that's red or pink. So I know that this one is pink because the label has been sliced right up the middle. Let's see what else we can find. We've got another one here, and this is a black one because the label hasn't been cut at all. So now we're going to add 4 tablespoons of brown sugar. When I find the spoon. Okay. Spoony woody, where'd you go? Don't think I put it in my pocket. I want.
The lid of the brown sugar, just to your left.
Oh, there, cool. Thanks, Sean. Right, so now we're going to level off 4 tablespoons of brown sugar. So I'm going to use my finger just to level that off. 2. The biggest thing is not to lose concentration, because then you lose count. And that's when things don't quite turn out as you planned. I think my imagination has expanded, and that's all about doing things differently. So because I can no longer see and I have to smell, hear, taste and touch, then I'm forced to do things in a different way. One of the things I was taught to do when I went blind by an instructor at the Foundation of the Blind was to learn how to pick things up when I drop them. So basically I was told to drop something, like this potato peeler, listen to where it landed, get down on my knees and just sweep, oh there we are, towards me, sweep the item towards me. So instead of going down and flicking it away from me, which you can very often do, it was much better to actually sweep towards you and the item would come closer to you. Okay, so we'll put the lid back on. It's really important to put the lid back on things when you're cooking without looking, because it's easy to knock things, and if the lid isn't on, the spills can be quite spectacular, and that's not always that helpful. Now we're going to add a teaspoon of cinnamon, and I reduced my spice rack to 6 spices at the beginning of the year because I just found it got really complicated. I couldn't remember what I had, and this way I've labelled them all in Braille. So we've got cinnamon here, and I've got 3 sweet spices and 3 savoury ones. So it keeps things simple, which makes life a whole lot easier. So we're going to do a teaspoon of cinnamon. So we're just going to mix that together to form a kind of paste. There. I can smell it. I know I've got the right spice because it smells cinnamony, yum. Obviously I can't drive, but I still actually have dreams about driving, and often I'm driving along the road and the police car will pull me over, the siren goes, and then the police officer comes up and I think, oh my goodness, how am I going to get away with this? How am I going to fake, that I can actually see? Do you think they'll notice? And then I'll wake up. So that's really good. I'm pleased I do that. I dream, I think, like I used to dream. And I've had this discussion with people who have been blind from birth versus me, who went blind at the age of 31. I still dream in colour and I can see. So it seems a bit bizarre, but when I go to sleep and close my eyes and have a dream, I can actually see people.
How do you avoid cutting yourself?
Well, that's all about feeling. So I feel for where the roll is. I have a lot more respect for sharp instruments than I did prior to losing my sight. So it's about having respect for a knife and the oven and hot things and being aware that they can actually hurt you. So I think it's about using your sense of touch wisely, working in a deliberate way, so slowing down your pace a wee bit so that you're less likely to have an accident.
Oh, there we are.
I'm about to open the oven now, and the oven can be a great source of danger when you can't see. So once again, it's about having respect for heat and doing things in a more deliberate way. So we'll open the oven door with my left hand and just find the grooves there and slot that in. And that's nice. I'd wonder about what my life would be like if I was able to see again. And because 14 years on, I've got so used to doing things when I can't see, I actually can't now imagine what my life would be like if I could see. Ooh, smells good. Smells delicious. I don't want blindness to be about being dark and dreary, so I'll work extra hard at having it be fun and bright and try and reverse the stereotype of blindness. Perfect. Yum.
The crew are still raving about those cinnamon rolls. If you want to know more about Operation Truffle or just to keep up with Julie's adventures, you can check out her website, thatblindwoman.co.nz.
A tragedy, really. There's no two ways about that. You've got some young people who leave for school fit and well, and half an hour down the road, of course, their whole life has changed.
Truck's come through from the road here over my left shoulder, and he's come through the stop sign, and he collected the boys.
It did ruin my life a little bit, but I'm still alive, so I've got to find my way back, you know. I'm finding my way back.
Nominations for the 2011 Attitude Awards are now open.
Start thinking about who you'd like to see recognised, then go to our website and nominate them, attitudepictures.com.
See you
Bye.
later.
Attitude was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.